Hi guys, I hope you're all doing very well. It seems like forever since I've sent you a memo video. So this is the last CRJ exercise memo that I will share with you because after this we are moving on. It's exercise 20 in your textbook on page 60 and it says Mrs. Henley of SA Florists had the following income for April 20. It doesn't specify, so I just made it 2020. The cash register was used to record cash sales. Okay, in other words, the source document for all sales in this exercise will be CRR. And receipts were issued for garden services rendered. So this business is one of those businesses that earns income from sales and earns income from services rendered, which will be recorded as current income. Then it says something that's very important. It says her markup on cash sales was 44%. Okay, now first things first, you have to go and give your cash receipts journal a heading. So it's the cash receipts journal of SA Florists for April 2020. And April is the fourth month of the year. That's why it's CRJ number 4. Okay, this is just your cost price formula if you've forgotten how to calculate cost price or if you're not sure how I get my cost price values. And then you can see I use the 44 there as my markup percentage. Now let's start with the transactions. The first transaction took place on the 2nd of April. It said issued receipt number 843 to Mrs. Daisy for payment of garden services provided to her 280 Rand. Now, the reason why I highlighted garden services is because this needs to tell you immediately that the income we received will be current income. In the CRJ, it will look like this. The document was receipt number 843. The date was the 2nd. The details is Mrs. Daisy because that's the customer's name. She paid us 280 Rand and it's the only transaction that takes place on this day. So you can draw your line in analysis of receipts, okay, and you can put the 280 Rand into your bank account. I just want to quickly recap the analysis of receipts column with you. I always refer to the analysis of receipts column as your till. Okay, so I want you to picture it like the till or the cash register in a shop. The moment when someone comes into the shop and they pay you money, you put it in the cash register. And only at the end of the day, you cash up your cash register. In other words, you count all of the money that you have earned for the entire day. You put it all together in an envelope or with a little elastic around it or in a little bank bag. And then you go and deposit that total money earned for the day into your bank account. Okay, so remember with analysis of receipts, if there's only one transaction for the day, there will only be 280 Rand in the till at the end of the day, and that's the amount that you will put into your bank bag and deposit into your bank account. If there are more than one transactions for the day, then you have to wait until the last transaction for the day before you can cash up that till and deposit the money into bank. Okay, and then remember, after bank, you always have to indicate what you received the money for, and it will be for sales, for current income, or for something else. In this case, we rendered a service, so we received current income from Mrs. Daisy. The next transaction said Mrs. Stewart paid 350 Rand for services rendered, and you issue, it says him, but it's actually a her, a receipt. They don't give you the receipt number, but you know what the previous receipt number was, so just needs to follow on that. In the CRJ, you will say it's receipt number 844. The date is the 3rd. The customer is Mrs. Stewart, who paid us 350 Rand. But now, if you go and look at your transactions, you will see there's actually another transaction on the 3rd, which means that the 350 Rand is not the total money that we will receive for the day. So we can't bank it yet. Therefore, you don't write anything in bank. You wait until the last transaction for the day is recorded. Okay, and then remember you have to specify what we received the money for. In this case, it was for rendering services, so once again, it's current income. Then the next transaction, also on the 3rd, said for a once-off clean-up. In other words, clean-up of the garden, so it's a service. We received 5,000 Rand from Mr. Hansen, and we issued him a receipt. Now in your CRJ, it will be receipt number 845. You don't write a 3 again because we're still on the 3rd, so you just leave that block blank. The customer is Mr. Hansen, who paid us 5,000 Rand. And now this is the last transaction for the day, so you can cash up your cash register. Take all of the money in it, put it in a little envelope or bank bag, and deposit the full 5,350 Rand into the bank account. And remember, now you have to specify what we received the 5,000 Rand for. We received it for a once-off cleanup, which is a service. Therefore, it's current income. Always when it's a service, it's current income. And please do not calculate cost of sales for transactions where we earn current income. Leave this column completely blank. This column is only associated with the sales column. Now the next transaction was on the 4th. It said cash sales according to the cash register roll, 3,750 Rand and 43 cents. Okay, so in your CRJ, the document will now be CRR, which is an abbreviation for cash register roll. It's the 4th. The details for cash sales is always sales. We received 3,750 Rand and 43 cents. It's the only transaction for the day, so you draw that black line indicating that you are transferring the amount to the bank column. Then you have to specify what we received the money for. It was for sales, so it goes to the sales column. And because we have a sale, we have to calculate the cost of that sale using our formula. And then you write your answer in the cost of sales column. The next transaction was on the 5th. It says Mrs. Henley, now remember this is our owner, increased her capital contribution by 7,000 Rand, and we also issued her a receipt. Okay, so in this case, we didn't have a sale or render a service. Our owner invested more money in the business. The receipt will be receipt number 846. It took place on the 5th. The owner's name is Mrs. Henley. She added 7,000 Rand to the business, which will go into our till. It's the last transaction for the day, so you can bank the value as well. But now you have to remember that it wasn't for a sale, so we won't record anything in sales or cost of sales. Nor was it for a service, so you don't record anything in current income. It was a capital contribution, so you have to go and record it in the sundry account section, which is this section that is used for all of the money that we receive that there's no specific column for. Okay, so you will have to record that 7,000 Rand in the amounts column, and you have to specify that it was capital. Please don't write capital contribution, just capital. Then the next transaction on the 8th was cash sales according to the CRR, 432 Rand and 99 cents. But I hope you've noticed that there's another transaction on the 8th as well. This will affect analysis of receipts and bank. So in the CRJ, the document is CRR, it's the 8th. Details is sales. We received 432 Rand and 99 cents, but it's not the last transaction for the day. So it won't represent the total of amount of money going to the bank. So we skip the bank column, but we have to specify what we received the money for, which was a sale. And then we have to calculate the cost of sales. And write the answer in the cost of sales column. The next transaction on the 8th was we received 435 Rand from Mrs. Harris for garden service fees. Okay, and they didn't specify that we issued a receipt, but in the beginning they said every time we render a service, we issue a receipt. Okay, now if we record this transaction in the CRJ, it will be receipt number 847. Don't write the 8th again because it's still on the same day. The customer's name was Mrs. Harris, who paid us 435 Rand. And now this is the last transaction for the day. So you cash up your till, you take the money from both transactions, put it in an envelope or a bank bag, okay, and then you deposit that total value, 867 Rand and 99 cents, into your bank account. And remember to draw the line after the amount when you're actually banking the money. Now this 435 Rand needs to go to another column as well, and we rendered a service, so it will go to current income. The next transaction was on the 11th. It said, received 2,500 Rand from Mr. Busy for office space rent to him. Okay, now this is not for rendering a service or for making a sale. This money will be rent income because Mr. Busy rents a part of our office space, and when he pays us, we call it rent income. We issued him a receipt. The reason why I highlighted it in pink is because this transaction will also go to the sundry accounts section because there's no specific column for rent income in our CRJ. Okay, so the receipt number will be 848. The date is the 11th. It's Mr. Busy, who paid us 2,500 Rand. It's the only transaction for the day, so put it in bank. And what did we receive it for? For rent income. So it goes to sundry accounts, rent income. Then on the 14th, we had cash sales according to the CRR, 3,592 Rand and 55 cents. So the document will be CRR. The date is the 14th. The details of sales. The amount we received goes to analysis of receipts and to bank because there's only one transaction for the day. And it was for a sale, so put the amount in the sales column and calculate your cost of sales. And write it in the cost of sales column. The next transaction was on the 15th. It's cash sales again. According to the CRR, 9,567 Rand. So it's pretty much the same as the previous transaction. It's CRR on the 15th. Details of sales. Put the 9,567 Rand in your till. It's the only money we will receive today, so you can bank it. And it was for a sale. Remember to calculate your cost of sales. And write the answer in the cost of sales column. Then on the 17th, we carted garden rubble away. In other words, we rendered a service for Mrs. Gibson and received 2,500 Rand for the job. They didn't say what the source document is, but in the beginning they said every time there's a service, we issue a receipt. So in the CRJ, it will be receipt number 849 because the previous receipt was 848. The date is the 17th. Mrs. Gibson was the customer who paid us 2,500 Rand. Put the money in bank as well, and we received it for rendering a service, so it goes to current income. Then on the 21st, it says Mrs. Henley, remember that's our owner, increases her financial stake in the business. Now that's just a very, very fancy way to say she added capital to the business. By 5,000 Rand, a receipt was issued. So don't let all of these big words fool you. It's just another capital contribution. So in the CRJ, we issued a receipt number 850 on the 21st to our owner, Mrs. Henley, who paid us 5,000 Rand. Only transaction for the day, so put it in bank. It was for capital, and therefore we won't record anything in sales, cost of sales, or current income. It will go to the sundry accounts section. The next transaction was cash sales according to the CRR, 4,567 Rand and 90 cents. So it's CRR in the documents column. The date is the 23rd. The details is sales. The value that we receive will go to our till, but I hope you've noticed it's not the last transaction for the day, so don't bank it yet. Hold on. Then, after the bank column, you have to specify what we received it for a sale, and then you calculate the cost of sales. And write the answer in this column. The next transaction was we issued a receipt to Mrs. Scott for 280 Rand for garden services rendered to her. Garden services, current income. So the receipt is 851. Don't write 23 again because we're still on the same day. The customer is Mrs. Scott, who paid us 280 Rand. And now this is the last transaction for the day. So you can take all of the money in your till, put it in a bank bag, and deposit that bank bag into the bank account at the end of the day. Okay, so this value represents the total of the values in our till. Then remember to specify what we received the 280 Rand for a garden service, so it goes to current income. Then on the 24th, we had cash sales according to the CRR, 782 Rand. Okay, so it's very much the same as all of the other sales transactions. It's CRR on the 24th, sales, put the money in analysis of receipts, only transaction for the day, so put it in bank as well and in sales, and calculate cost of sales. And write it here. Then on the 26th, we have cash sales again, according to the CRR, 542 Rand. So it's CRR, 26 sales. The value goes to our till. It's the only transaction for the day, so we can bank the 542 Rand. We received it for a sale. Calculate the cost of sales. And write the answer in the cost of sales column. And then lastly, on the 29th, we received a late payment. Don't worry about the fact that it's late. Okay, for garden services rendered from P. Peters, 300 Rand. Okay, so it's still for services even though it's late. It goes to its receipt number 852. On the 29th, the customer's name is P. Peters, who paid us 300 Rand. It's the only transaction for the day, so bank the money. And you have to specify what we received it for, which is current income. And then right at the end, remember to total your columns. That's the bank total. This is the sales total. This is the cost of sales total, current income total, and sundry accounts total. And if you want to test yourself, remember if you add sales, current income, and sundry accounts together, it must give you the same value as the value in the bank